Welcome back, everyone. Today I have for you my Secrets of Power leader ranking video. So listen, these are just for fun, but I do try my best to make good predictions. Last set, I was just a hair too hopeful for Legends of the Force, and I was also trying out this new system where I tied my rankings into meta win rates, which was kind of difficult at the time because I just used SWU Competitive Hub. Going forward, I'm going to use SWU Meta Stats, Meta Tier List Kyber Score as my benchmark. If you don't know what that is, Sky the Shade has made this amazing tool that tracks meta archetypes, and it can do these really cool things like break down of the individual lists, show you what the core cards are, the popular cards that a lot of people run, some flex cards, and more, all based off the real life usage of these decks that good players bring to tournaments and submit them. So I highly suggest you check it out. I'll put the link in the description below if you want to look at it. I think this will just make everybody a better deck builder to see what kind of cards go into what decks. Anyway, if you like, I can make a complete video with Sky himself on SWU Meta Stats and how to use it and get the most effective use out of it to make you the better deck builder that you can be. But going back to how this ties into this video, I'll put in text what each of these stars mean, but in general, a 5-star leader will either have a tier 1 deck or multiple tier 2 decks. A 4-star leader will have a tier 2 deck or multiple tier 3 decks, and so on and so forth. 1-star leaders, however, will just be, in my opinion, just these really unplayable leaders that kind of have no reason to see play in the current set. So, saying that, this is only specifically for Secrets of Power. However, in this video, I'm doing something a little bit different, where I'm going to rank the leaders based on how I think they're going to perform in Secrets of Power, but also post-rotation, because I know a lot of the discourse surrounding Secrets of Power has been about, oh, how will these leaders be come post-rotation? The video chapters are going to have all the leaders, and the outro is going to have all my rankings in one place, both for this coming set and rotation, so feel free to skip around to whatever you want. And if you're curious on what the Kyber score is, I'll post a link in the description below on kind of how he gets to his formula and what the Kyber score actually is, because there is some hocus pocus math that's introduced into it, but I do actually think the Kyber score is a better representation of how strong the leaders are, opposed to just, raw win rate, because I don't think raw win rate tells the whole story. Before we get started, a quick thank you to all the YouTube and Discord members. I really appreciate you growing the community, and it's actually turned out to be something that's really cool and I never thought I'd be a part of. A special thank you to Sky the Shade for making SWU Meta Stats, which I'm going to use going forward significantly, and I'm going to reference a lot throughout the video, and more on how to support me at the end. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Chancellor Palpatine, How Liberty Dies. 3 stars now, 4 stars post-rotation. He's a vigilance villainy leader with the action pay 1 resource and exhaust him. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for a card with plot, reveal, and draw it. He flips on 7 resources as a 6/8 with the when deployed ability. The next card you play using plot this phase costs 3 less. Chancellor Palpatine is a good leader. He also does something inherently unfair with being able to play 10 resources worth of cards on the 7 resource turn, and he does have arguably the easiest pay a resource, draw a card ability in the game right now. We have seen that ability stapled on cards before, but the only one that actually sees any play is Emperor Palpatine from set 1, but that's also because it has a lot more than just drawing a card to it. It has the ability to do things like defeat a super laser technician and get a ready and a ramp. It also can trigger when defeated cards, and then it also pings opponents' units. So there's definitely more to it than just draw a card. One highlight of Chancellor Palpatine, however, is that he can play a single out-of-aspect plot card on his flip turn for 1 less. So he could play Cinta for 5 if he's not in red, which is going to be pretty strong. He also can play any plot card in the game, even if it's double out-of-aspect, for only +1 resource, which is also not that bad. I do see him mostly in green since he's a 7 resource card, so you kind of need the ramp to get to where he wants to be. And he's going to be in that blue-green villain shell, which is just very crowded, and that's why he's 3 stars. You're going to have Kylo, Kira, Set 1 Palpatine, and even Thrawn now, all rounding out a good portion of this deck archetype. So I think he has a competent deck in this archetype, but he's just not going to be able to completely take it over. The other color I could see him in is red with cards like Cinta for 3 and Sudden Ferocity, which can be free, which means that he can deploy and instantly swing for 9 damage. having a 5/5 body to go with him. All that being said, I think he gets a little better post-rotation strictly because a lot of the stronger competition gets rotated out. He's still going to have all the plot cards that make his leader flip inherently unfair, where maybe blue-green villain as a whole gets weaker. He's gonna probably mostly stay the same compared to the rest, so I actually like him taking over that blue-green villain shell going forward with what we've seen so far. So I think he actually gets better post-rotation, but right now, he's just in a pretty crowded spot. Jabba the Hutt, wonderful human being. 2 stars now, 3 stars post-rotation. Jabba is a vigilance villainy leader with the action, pay a resource, and exhaust him. A friendly damaged unit deals 1 damage to an enemy unit. If the friendly unit has 3 or more damage on it, it deals 2 damage instead. So he flips on 5 resources as a 2/8, which is a unique stat line for his flip cost. It says when another friendly unit is dealt damage and survives, you may have that unit deal that much damage to an enemy unit, but it does have this hard once per turn effect, so you can't trigger it multiple times in a turn. I think people originally naturally gravitated again towards green and ran him in that blue-green villain shell, which, like I've said, has some decent things going for it, but it's kind of just a crowded area right now, and Jabba just doesn't do much unique in that archetype that makes you want to run him over the other cards. The things that Jabba can do that's really unique, you're probably already winning that game anyway, so it's kind of like just a win more version of the deck. But I've actually tried Jabba a little in yellow, and he somewhat works. You get the discard Underworld package, and you possibly even get to deploy like Cad Bane on 5 resources, with now there are 2 of them, because Jabba's flip at 8 health makes him extremely difficult to just remove. And I do think this is a competent deck. I do think there's something actually here, and I think you'll see Jabba be a tier 4 deck in yellow with him kind of surprising people with the discard package. Post-rotation, FFG has stated that unit-to-unit combat is what they desire and what will become a lot more prevalent. And Jabba is kind of thriving off that, so I'm going to give him the post-rotation bump. I'll also say that a 2/8 stat line could actually be pretty insane in green. You can flip Jabba and protect the pod to basically like rivals fall any leader that flips the same turn. So keep an eye out for some cool stuff with him. I do think he might be a little bit slept on for this set. Lama Su, we modified their genetics. 1 star now and 1 star in the future. Lama Su is our final vigilance villainy leader who has the action, exhaust this leader, and play an upgrade from your hand on a friendly non-vehicle unit. It costs 1 less. If you do, deal 1 damage to that unit. He flips on 6 resources as a 3/7 with the ability that says when this unit completes an attack and survives, you may play an upgrade from your discard pile on a friendly non-vehicle unit. It costs 1 less. So this is the first time you're gonna hear me say this, but I'm gonna say this a lot throughout the video. Stat lines on 6 flip leaders need a serious adjustment. A 3/7 stat line is the golden ratio for a 5 flip leader. And Lama Su has this really interesting and unique and cool ability that I actually really like and enjoy. And it does have merit as an ability, but poor stats on a 6 flip leader is what holds back many interesting 6 flip leaders in this game and holds back Lama Su. We see Cad Bane see play, and he's an 8 health, raid 2 with a 2 attack. So it's kind of like 4 attack. And we can call that 12 stats. Plus a good free action efficient ability that synergizes with Tarkin Town. So even if you think Lama Su will be good, his stats are going to hold him back, because if you compare him to Cad Bane, he only has a bucket of 10 stats, not 12. So in order to get a decent amount of value out of Lama Su, you're going to need to run like 9 upgrades minimum, which eats into the other good cards you can play. And unlike the other good upgrade dependent leader, in the same color mind you, Kylo Ren, Kylo gets rid of upgrades that he doesn't want to play right now, and that allows him to draw into other good cards that he might want to play right now. And Kylo also has this inherent Anakin synergy, which is just really strong, where Lama Su can just get stuck with whatever he draws. So you're going to get these awkward hands often. I mainly see Lama Su in yellow, because you get to do like these cool things with snapshot reflexes for free and other kind of interesting things. But like if you wanted to run a pseudo upgrade leader in blue yellow, I think you're just better off running Gar Sax in yellow. He's just like a better leader in those colors. In the other 2 colors, green and red, Kylo's your man. But yes, with grit, Lama Su is kind of interesting, but it's really susceptible to removal, and competitively, you don't want to help your opponent beat you by letting them take out 2 cards for the price of 1. In the future, Lama Su loses out on a bunch of great 1-cost upgrades like snapshot reflexes because they get rotated out. So I'm not sure we're going to get enough good upgrades in the future that makes Lama Su playable post-rotation. So he's going to stay a 1-star for me, sadly. Held back by his stats, and like the competition for upgrade leaders in Blue Villain is Kylo Ren, who's in his same rotation block, so he never gets away from that. Leia Organa of A Secret Bloodline. 2 stars now, 1 star in the future. Leia is a Vigilance hero leader with the action, pay 1 resource, and exhaust this leader. Then you may disclose either a Vigilance, Command, Aggression, Cunning, or Heroism aspect. If you do, give an experience token to a unit that does not share an aspect with the disclosed card. She flips on 6 resources as a 4/7 with the same ability, just with on attack instead of, exhaust the leader. So why do I think Leia is only 2 stars and maybe even should be a single star? I know a lot of people have said she might be the worst leader we've ever seen printed, but I don't think I'm actually going to go that far. Well, right now, she's just an experience token leader with a heavy restriction printed on her. Just so we're on the same page and we all understand what's going on, if you have a unit like Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight in play and you want to give him an experience token, disclosing a card like Home 1 from Spark of Rebellion won't give that experience token, since both disclosed cards share the same hero aspect. And that makes you want to run slightly worse cards, since hero aspect cards are usually better than standard non-hero aspect cards. So the reason why Leia is 2 stars is because I actually built a Leia yellow deck. And in that deck, there are some good single aspect cards that kind of are the opposite aspect of the units that you're trying to play. Think like Surprise Strike and Hotshot DL-44 Blaster, which is just a red aspect. So if you keep a Hotshot Blaster in your hand, you can always just reveal it to get that experience token no matter what, because your units are either yellow or blue. In the future, you may say that Leia's going to get better because her current replacement, which is Rey, right, another token experience leader that kind of has something going for it, she rotates out, so Leia should become good, right? And I'm going to have to say no. Rey also has this decent strategy of playing a bunch of weenie units, buffing them, having good draw engines to keep up the pressure, and her leader side also has Restores 3, which is extremely significant in an aggressive matchup. Leia just has too many safety valves built into her. Both aspects have to be different. You have to pay a resource, and you flip on 6 resources with slightly low stats. All of those combined just make me feel like Leia is just gonna be outpaced going forward. My current favorite lines, like I said, holding a Hotshot Blaster, which always hits, is gonna rotate out. Unless we get another mechanic that lets us easily run out of aspect cards like this, I'm not sure she's gonna get to where she needs to go. So sadly, Leia 2 stars, probably 1 stars, but I do see some very minor competent strategies with her. So I'm giving her the bump to 2 stars and 1 star going forward. Satine Kryze, standing on principles. 1 star now, but 3 stars post-rotation. Satine is the other hero vigilance leader with the action, exhaust this leader, heal up to 2 damage from a unit. If you do, deal that much damage to your base. She flips on 5 resources as a 0/8 with Restore 4. Right now, unit healing abilities are not good and constructed at all. We have seen Rose get 1 PQ win, and it was kind of a big deal. Twilight Obi-Wan kind of shows up at local events here and there, and some showdowns, but he's just not that strong. In the future, FFG does claim that they are removing a lot of the efficient event removals. So cards like Power of the Dark Side and Rivals Fall are going to be rotated out with the other cards like Takedown and Fell the Dragon. This means that damage-based removal is going to be more common, so just think about Chirrut with Satine Kryze. If there aren't replacements for Takedown, not only does he reduce the attacker's damage by 2, but whatever gets through can just be healed off of him. This means he can usually prevent 11 to 13 damage over 2 turns or something crazy like that. Another thing Satine has going for her is that leader removal is effectively gone next set. This means Satine will most likely stick around for a few turns, and her Restore 4 is kind of crazy and could spiral out of control. With no efficient way to get rid of an 8 health leader, she may be able to heal 8, 12, hell, maybe even 16 damage over the course of a game. If you upgrade her, she can start becoming a real threat. Currently, you buy time to get the threats like Home 1 and Luke Skywalker, but who knows? Maybe Mon Mothma and Bo-Katan will be the queens of the castle post-rotation. I'm actually excited about her once leader removal is gone from the game, but right now, she's pretty not exciting and just 1 star. Colonel Yularen, this is why we plan. 3 stars now, and 4 stars post-rotation. Yularen is a command villain leader with the action, exhaust this leader, attack with a unit, then you may attack with another unit that costs less than it. He flips on 5 resources as a 4/6, so competitive stats, but not the golden ratio of 3/7. With the text, when this unit completes an attack and survives, you may attack with another unit that costs 4 or less. So the obvious comparison here is with Spark of Rebellion Leia Organa, who did the same thing, but only with rebels. For those who don't remember, Leia actually was pretty strong in set 1. Fortunately, she was just outclassed by Sabine, and we didn't get much help for Leia over the last 5 sets, and Sabine kinda took over and never looked back in the common color combination that was red-green hero. But she's not bad. And I've seen people say that Yularen is a weaker Leia ability, but I actually disagree. I think it's a stronger Leia ability. There's no trait restriction here. You're always just going to be playing units of different costs. So Yularen's ability just naturally always comes online, where Leia only came online with Rebels. You couldn't run a competent Leia yellow list with Millennium Falcon from Spark of Rebellion because it wasn't a Rebel. Then if you tried it, because I did, you would get kind of awkward turns. Yularen just doesn't have that problem. All you do is run good cards, and then you get to be action efficient with those good cards. He checks a lot of boxes, doesn't he? 5 flip leader, good stats, competent ability, relevant traits, cheats the rules of the game with action compression. I know Loopy over at Late Night Gaming has run him in double command, and I heard this from someone who I know and trust that they got absolutely stomped by it. You can even run Data Vault, play a lot of good green villain cards, and then you can just do this massive board-wide pump like Unity of Purpose, and then swing into base action efficiently with 2 units, and that's just the GG. My barrier to make Yularen a 4-star leader is I just think we're gonna see one popular deck with him, and that deck I believe is going to be a tier 3 deck, which makes him only 3 stars. But in the future, this is just one of those abilities that ages like wine and not milk, because we're always going to get good units. And doing something good with good units isn't bad. So Yularen, 3 stars now, 4 stars in the future. Dryden Voss, I never ask twice. 4 stars now, 5 stars post-rotation. Dryden is a command villain leader with the action, exhaust this leader, and discard a card that costs 6 or more from your hand. Then play a unit that costs 5 or less from your hand, paying its cost, and give it ambush for this phase. He flips on 7 resources as a 5/7 with Overwhelm, and the action, discard a card from your hand, play a unit from your hand, it gains ambush for this phase. So when Dryden flips, he effectively loses the cost restriction on both the card that he discards and the card that he plays, making his power a lot better once he flips. So why I think Dryden is so insane is he can inherently do something we've seen people pay 5 life for with ECL. So ECL can hit 6 cost cards, which is a big deal. Going from 6 resources to 5 resources is a big nerf, since it doesn't hit cards like Anakin and Vader from Legends of the Force. Unless Dryden is flipped, of course. But giving good units ambush at the cost of a card is absolutely an insane power spike. I mean, we see people running Timely Intervention to ambush out cards. Now, there is no restriction on that, but you do have to pay 1 extra resource. But in Dryden, every single 6 cost card or higher also has this Timely Intervention thing stapled to it, and that's kind of good if you need it to be there. You also get to ambush multiple times a game, so maybe you need to use the ability only 2 to 3 times a game. Yeah, you do lose 2 to 3 cards, but there are ways to mitigate that with draws and plots. We also currently have cards like Salvage and Palpatine's Return in his native colors that allow him to resurrect the large cards that he's dumped, so you don't actually lose them for the entirety of the game. And if you dump cards like Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, or even Yoda the Force is my ally, you can turn on Anakin to make him a -6/-6, which is already an extremely powerful card. A few other cool things that Dryden can do that gives him a unique edge in the blue-green villain shell that I think will be his natural shell. You can eliminate all 2 cost cards from your deck, making your deck a little more top-heavy. In my current list, I completely cut my 2 cost cards except Dr. Pershing because Dr. Pershing's card draw does help our hand issue a little bit. You effectively ignore turn 1, and then on turn 2, you can ambush a 3 cost card to remove your opponent's turn 1 play. And since you didn't play a turn 1 play, the first ambush is kind of free. You can ambush a General Grievous or a Knight of Ren, which takes out a turn 1 play and survives usually. Or you can ambush out a Supremacy Tie against space decks. And if you don't have a great turn 2 play, there's All Reliable Power of the Dark Side, which can just defeat any unit your opponent plays if they don't go double 1-drop, which is more common now. All of this helps Dryden get to 7 resources and his flip turn. I've even seen force decks with Dryden because you can do things like ambush out a Talzin's Assassin for 7 damage. And since you can trigger the ambush before the when played, you don't even need to play a force unit and attack with it before playing Talzin's Assassin with ambush, because you can order it like ambush going first and then the when played triggering. And that deals 7 damage, which defeats any 5-flip leader in the game if they don't plot anything to pump its health. So that's a really, really strong play that we have. There's also a lot of cards with good breakpoints that are held back because they're slow. If your opponent plays a Millennium Falcon or a Victor leader on turn 2, you can always just ambush a Fet's Fire Spray next turn to get rid of it, and then leave a threat on the board while also dealing 2 indirect damage to your opponent. Typically, I like to see 7-flip leaders have a really big flip turn to be good, but I think Dryden not having an insane flip is only okay because his leader ability is so unbelievably strong. He can survive to that flip and then close out games with the late game control cards. And I know I've talked extensively about Dryden Blue, but you could also run him in different colors. Even red and yellow seem to have some game. Being able to flip and ambush a Cad Bane seems pretty good to me. Or even just fighting your way with ambush cards to finally get to the 9 resource turn and then dropping a Crate Dragon down seems like winning lines in Dryden, and since you have a ton of ambush, you might have a better chance of getting to those later game cards. The issue with Dryden is just that he gets overwhelmed by space decks and even like Garsax and yellow decks. I think there will be a competitive Dryden deck, and I think that deck is going to run like 12 good cheap space units that they can ambush out to make sure they don't get completely overwhelmed by space. Cards like Fet's Fire Spray, Eager Escort Fighters, Nubian Star Scouts. Even in red and yellow, there's other cards. You can make a ton of cards effectively Eager Escort Fighters. Even a Starwing Scout is effectively a super good Eager Escort Fighter that nets you 1+ card because you'll have initiative, so you'll swing with it, it'll die, then you'll get to draw 2 cards because you claim turn 1. And that helps the hand issue that Dryden runs into. In the future, I think Dryden's ability of giving everything ambush is just going to be incredible. We see ECL being good, and Dryden will be the only ECL-like effect that hardly has any restriction in the game post-rotation. His best synergies with cards like Anakin and Talzin's Assassin stay with him for the entire rotation since they're printed in the same block. We're just going to get a lot of cards that, if they just said ambush, will be amazing. So that's why I think Dryden gets a big bump post-rotation and is pretty good now. Bail Organa doing everything he can. 2 stars now, and 2 stars in the future. Bail Organa is a command hero leader with the action, pay 1 resource, and exhaust this leader. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, return a friendly resource to its owner's hand. If you do, put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Then his leader flip is unique. If you have 4 resources, you can exhaust him and then discard 2 cards. Then you can deploy him as a 3/3 with the text. When you play a card from your resource row, heal 1 damage from your base. So Bail is obviously the hero leader for the plot mechanic because the idea is you discard the 2 cards, but you get to play from the resource row often. And his leader side is essentially pay 1 and often draw the perfect card for the situation. And that's a strong effect that does mitigate the leader deploys downsides of the discard 2 cards. Bail also has some cool unique synergies. With a single resupply, you can ramp multiple times since you just pull back that resupply from the resource row and then play it again. His leader ability is effectively a tech-like effect. For 1 less resource actually, since you get to play the card from your resource row for only 1 more because you draw it first and then play it, and that 1 cost comes from, using his leader ability for 1 resource. There's also some cool things that you can do with Shadow Collective Camp, since you discard 2 cards and then draw an extra card, which also helps mitigate the downside of his leader flip. So there are ways to get around that issue. My problem with Bail was when I played him in blue, I just kind of wanted to play Yoda instead, since the leader deploy of Yoda is just way more impactful than Bail's. Yeah, ramp is good, but usually when I ramp, I want to ramp into my insane leader flip, and that's just not net needed in Bail. So maybe you remove the ramp, but then you're kind of not doing something that green is really good at. And when I was in red, I kind of just rather wanted to play Sabine in those colors because she's just faster and just way more impactful. Also, if you're playing him in red to get Shadow Collective Camp, ECL is just better in Sabine. I've been very underwhelmed with Bail when I played him, and he currently feels like just a worse version of other decks, but I am going to say there is something here, and that's why he's 2 stars and not 1 star. It's also worth noting that you just can't use Bail's ability on his leader side and also deploy him in the same phase, since they both require you to exhaust the leader. In the future, I'm not sure we're getting any more cards that can be played from the resource row, and he loses Smuggle, so he's a tad weaker post-rotation. Even though a lot of his competition rotates out, I still think I'm going to rate him the same as 2 stars, a tad underwhelming. Mon Mothma forming a coalition. 3 stars now, and 3 stars in the future. Mon is a command hero leader with the leader ability. Ignore the aspect penalties on non-villain official units you play. She flips on 5 resources as a 3/7 leader with the same ignore the aspect penalties on non-villain official units you play, and she gives each other friendly official just +1 health. The initial reaction, I'm sure, is that we've seen this ability on like Nala Se and Hera, and they just weren't good. Nala Se worked with clones and Hera worked with specters. So why is Mon Mothma 3 stars? Well, she's actually just a better leader stat-wise than the other leaders. Nala Se had a good amount of stats, but they were weirdly spread out. And unfortunately, the clones that she was supposed to want to play just weren't that great. Hera doesn't have that many specters she wants to run, and she herself is a 6 cost 4/6, so she's a poorly statted 6 flip leader. Official is a much more widespread trait than the other two. There are 65 non-villain officials in the game right now, with only 44 clones and I believe 17 specters. These numbers may be slightly inflated as I just searched the database, but they do count like the convention exclusive cards separately, so take this with a grain of salt. All of this to say that Mon's ability touches more units, so there's a higher chance that she gets to break the game by running more good units regardless of her color combination. There are some strong officials you want to run. Chancellor Palpatine, which was a double yellow card, but double yellow had bad token generation. Well, cool, now you can run it in double green, which has great token generation. Maz Amida is a good draw engine. You can run him in Mon Blue if you wanted to now. So there's so many really good combos with Mon, and she does have good stats, and that's really important. There are some sneaky really good officials too, like Regulations Bureaucrat, who is a 2-cost card that's a 0/5 but has this action exhaust this unit and exhaust an enemy's resource. If you have initiative, this can almost shut down decks with the 5 health. He's kind of hard to remove, so he's going to stick around and at least get some value. I think Mon Mothma will have at least a tier 3 deck. I'm not sure she'll have a tier 2 deck, but it really won't surprise me if someone concocts like the craziest assembly of cards that just kind of works with her. She also could be the strongest token deck because she gets to run Chancellor Palpatine in double green, letting you have these massive swing turns, but that's probably a maybe and most likely not gonna actually be that consistent. And yes, you do lose a lot of good officials come rotation, but we will always get officials to go in her decks, and honestly, with just officials from this rotation block, she has access to a lot of healing and restore that makes her really difficult to actually beat. So I think Mon's still going to be relevant post-rotation, especially with her stat spread and her unit side being the golden ratio of 3/7. Dedra Meero, not wasting time. 5 stars now, and 5 stars in the future. Dedra is an aggression villain leader with the action pay a resource and exhaust this leader. Choose an enemy unit, its controller may deal 2 damage to it, and if they don't, draw a card. She flips on 4 resources as a 2/5 with the text, while you have more cards in hand than an opponent, this unit gains raid 2, so she can attack for more than Sabine can on the same flip turn. That already makes me really like her. This also may make you initially lean towards an aggressive game plan with Dedra, and eventually that may be the case. There's an argument to just copy and paste Sabine ECL, but switch out the Rebel and Hero cards with Imperial and Villain cards, and just see how it works. Cards like Jar Jar Binks and any other red villain attack with an Imperial card that mimics Fleet Lieutenant just naturally fit into her deck. And she may also be just really good in blue, since red-blue hard control usually had this issue of fighting aggressive decks, and since Dedra flips early, she can contest the board early on, making that matchup a lot better for hard control. However, I found that Dedra has been rather weak to space aggro, and I do believe that's going to be a serious contender going forward. So she's going to have these counters, but being great into every other matchup will probably make her at least a tier 2 deck in my opinion, and I think she's actually going to have 2 tier 2 decks, both in green and blue, and that's why I think she's a 5-star leader. I don't think she's going to have a tier 1 deck, but she's going to have multiple tier 2 decks. Her largest downside is your opponent gets to choose what happens. Often, Early on, I just take the damage to my units so she doesn't get the draw or the raid. And then later on in the game, if she's trying to set up a vigilance or takedown, I'll just let her draw a card because by turn 5 or turn 4, it's usually too late and the cards don't matter. But I do think she's great. Green has actually been the better of the two decks in my testing, but I do think blue will eventually figure it out since control takes a little bit longer to settle down before the aggro can. So Dedra, the best leader in the set, 5 stars now, 5 stars in the future because just a 2-5 raid 2 for the next set I think is just going to be extremely strong. Governor Pryce, Tyrant of Lothal. 2 stars now, and 1 star in the future. Pryce is another aggression villainy leader with the ability, as an action, exhaust her and pay 1 resource to ready a token unit. She flips on 6 as a 4/6 with the static ability. For each ready friendly token unit, get +1 attack, and then the on-attack ability to create a spy token. My issue with Governor Pryce is she just feels kind of odd. I feel like her leader side should have been Sly Moore's leader side. Pryce just doesn't have inherently any token generation in her kit, and her colors are actually some of the worst token generators right now. You kind of want her in naturally like yellow or green. If her colors were swapped with Sly Moore's, she would be so much better. I actually think that you should take Sly Moore's front side and then staple it on to General Pryce's back side and just make it yellow, and the leader would actually function a lot cleaner. What we have to do now is we have to decide, do we run Pryce in yellow or in green? And I've tried yellow and it kind of works. You get a swing with tokens, then you can like ready them and then attach pumps to them like Surprise Strike or Hotshot Blaster to get like extra damage. So that's kind of nice. And then you get cards like On the Doorstep, which on Pryce's flip turn makes her a 7/6. So that's nice because on the doorstep the droids come in ready. And then in green, you do get some token generation, but you just get like the good green villain cards. This has just felt like a worse Boba Data Vault to me. If you don't have any tokens, she's a 4/6, which is pretty underrated. Like we've talked about, that's a 5 flip leader stat and not even the golden ratio for a 5 flip leader. However, she can swing for like 9 easily if your opponent just like ignores the tokens that you've played throughout the game. I just think that readying tokens for 1 is meh, and her stats are just meh. And then like her native color is just bad for good token generation. I do think she's a competent leader. Like there is a reason she exists. She's just naturally in a bad color and has 5 flip stats for a 6 flip stat leader. And that's going to limit her. Post rotation, we lose 1/3 of the token generation sets. So unless we get more token generation sets, which is not like unlikely, and hey, these sets might be better than Twilight. That was their first token generator set and it like kind of flopped. So if we get good token generator sets down the line, Pryce could get a bump up. But right now, from what we see currently, Pryce is only a 1 star moving forward. Cassian Andor, Climb. 3 stars now, and 4 stars post-rotation. Cassian is an aggression hero leader with the leader ability. Friendly units that have damage in opponent's base this phase can't be attacked unless they have Sentinel. He flips on 6 resources as a 6/2 with the ability, while you have initiative, this unit isn't defeated by having no remaining HP and can't be defended by enemy card abilities. So Cassian is one of the coolest leaders we've like ever seen printed. If I say he has bad stats, well, he kinda doesn't. He has 6 attack, which is on the high end for a 6 flip leader, and you know, often his health stat does not matter because if you have initiative, they just can't defeat him, even with like a rival's fall, which is crazy. He gives protection to the units he plays, and if you play a unit that deals indirect damage and your opponent like chooses base, well, that unit dealt damage to an opponent's base that phase, so they actually can't be attacked. The only reason that he is 3 stars, strictly because Sabine is just better than him in like what he wants to do, which is swing damage to base in a highly aggressive fashion. But once Sabine is gone, I think he actually just takes over that role, albeit without like the rebel cards, no fleet lieutenant, and like no For a Cause I Believe In, which is a big deal. And I also want to say that Cassian suffers from like the initiative syndrome, which is like if you win the die roll and get initiative first, then you have a much higher win rate than if you go second. Also worth noting that there are cards that just turn off his ability like Force Lightning and One Way Out. So keep that in mind. He's not like actually unkillable. And he also is kind of highly countered by Sentinels, since like if you drop a Sentinel and Cassian has to run into it, you can just claim, and the moment you claim, Cassian is defeated. Something really interesting about Cassian is that when he's deployed, you can just attack his units again. They like lose the protection as soon as he's deployed. And if you kill Cassian by like claiming, then from then on out, his units get protection again. That's rather cool. I just think there are some roadblocks for Cassian, But going forward without Sabine and the fact that once again FFG said they want more unit-to-unit fighting, Cassian's ability could really take off going forward, bumping him up to 4 stars post-rotation. Also, a slight note here, for those of you who are really high on Cassian but flamed me for my third sister take last set, they effectively do similar things on their leader side, so just keep that in mind. Luthen Rael, do you want to fight for real? 2 stars now and 2 stars in the future. Luthen is another aggression hero leader with the ability when a friendly unit is defeated while attacking, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, deal 1 damage to a unit or base. He flips on 5 resources as a 2/7, so slightly understated, with the ability when a friendly unit is defeated while attacking, you may deal 2 damage to a unit or base. And importantly, Luthen does see himself, so if he is defeated while attacking, he can still do the 2 damage. What makes Luthen awkward is that he's an initiative-based leader. He needs his units to attack and get defeated to effectively trade up. So if you don't have the initiative and your opponents are attacking into you, well, that's kind of rough for you. He also kind of wants to be a control leader, since normally to defeat a unit while attacking, you have to run it into an opposing unit. Luthen does get cards like Heroic Sacrifice, which Heroic Sacrifice K2SO on a Luthen flip does deal 11 damage with all the effects resolving, so that's extremely nice. If you're running Luthen in control, you're running blue probably, and Anakin is just kind of the stronger leader that's doing what Luthen already wants to do. If you're running him in green, Sabine or Cassian are both stronger than Luthen. And if you're in yellow, I still think you want to run Sabine. I just think Luthen will be like an interesting locals leader, and post-rotation, yes, Anakin and Sabine rotate, but so do cards like Heroic Sacrifice and K2SO, which are some of the strongest cards in Luthen's native colors, so I think he'll still just be 2 stars. I could be wrong though, because as I keep saying, FFG wants unit-to-unit combat more, and that's kind of the environment that Luthen thrives in. Sly Moore, Cypher in the Dark, 2 stars now and 1 star in the future. Sly Moore is a cunning villain leader with the action pay 1 resource and exhaust this leader. If there are 4 or more exhausted units in play between you and your opponent, create a spy token. He flips on 5 resources as a 3/6 with the Force, Imperial, and Official traits, which are all good, and that's why I'm mentioning them, and she has the on attack ability you may deal 2 damage to an exhausted unit. Sly does have 1 less HP than I'd like, and 6 HP is a lot worse than 7, but her on attack ability is nice. 2 damage to an exhausted unit means she can sometimes swing for 5, or break a shield and get through it, or just go to base and defeat or damage something. 4 exhausted units between you and your opponent isn't that difficult to pull off, and I've seen her both in double yellow and green. Both of those colors also had some success, so I do think there's something here. She's not like absolutely awful, but there are just too many safety nets in play for me to really think she's crazy. Low stats, her leader ability is pay a resource, and she must have 4 exhausted units in play. I can see her being like Akbar levels of successful. Some crazy European like DJ Claro can fix her, but I certainly can't, but I might try. In the future, I think she's just 1 star because she loses some of the token generation, and she loses the really strong yellow villain cards that are in the game right now. C-3PO, Human-Cyborg Relations, 2 stars now and 1 star in the future. He's a cunning hero leader with the action pay 1 resource and exhaust this leader. If you control an exhausted unit, exhaust a unit. He flips on 4 as a 1/6 with the Rebel and Droid trait. With the on attack ability, if you control another exhausted unit, you may exhaust a unit. So like, I get the theme with 3PO. He's exhausting, his whole shtick is he exhausts. And I've played into a 3PO in double yellow that had everything going for them, and I still just outvalued them with my Yoda green list. I get the cool funny things with Babu Frick and even things like Protect the Pod. Like, those do work and synergize well with 3PO. And 3PO being a rebel means that he can be wing leadered and fleet lieutenanted, and that's some good synergy. And even some of those cards leave an exhausted unit behind as well as let you attack in the same action. But other than those gimmicks, let's be honest, 3PO is not strong. He does have rebel synergy, he does have droid synergy, but he's not good. He's fun, and he'll be a local leader at my locals, I'm sure of it, and post-rotation he does lose the rebel package that makes him somewhat competent, and I think he fades into 1-star territory. Padme Amidala, what do you have to hide? 3 stars now and 1 star in the future. Padme is a cunning hero leader with the ability, when you reveal or discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, deal 1 damage to a unit. She flips on 6 as a 3/8 with the ability, when you reveal or discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. Firstly, I want to say a 3/8 stat line is a lot better than 3/7, or even like the 4/6s that we've seen commonly on 6 flip leaders, So the 8 health I think is a really big deal. I would like to see her be like a 4-8, 3-8 I'll live with. And I have heard Wu refer to Padme as just worse Quinlan, and she kind of is, because she flips a turn later and her ping effect isn't nearly as consistent as Quinlan's. She also somewhat comparable to Cad Bane, since they both flip on 6 with 8 HP. One of the downsides with Padme is that she does work well with Tarkin Town, but the strongest part of Tarkin Town is the ability to turn 1 ping Tarkin Town your opponent's turn 1 play, setting them back in the game and not letting them catch back up. The issue with Padme is there are very few cards that let her turn 1 reveal or discard a card. You have like Twilight's R2-D2 and the Faith in Friends card. The other good cards that she can use are typically on attack cards. And that's what sets her back for me. She's good with Tarkin Town, but so is Quinlan. You probably just want to run him instead. And then come rotation, Ping Leader's greatest asset in Tarkin Town go away, and unless we get a replacement, I'm not sure she's going to be strong anymore. So unfortunately, she gets 1 star, barring something unexpected in the future. Sabe, Queen's Shadow. 3 stars now and 3 stars in the future. Sabe is another cunning heroism leader with the ability when a friendly unit deals combat damage to a base, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of the defending player's deck, discard one of those cards, and leave the other on top. She flips as a 3/6 raid 1 on 5 resources with the ability when this unit deals combat damage to a base, look at the defending player's hand, discard a card from it. If you do, that player draws a card. And I actually do kind of like Sabe's ability. She has competitive stats because she's kind of like a 4/6 for 5, not the best, but not bad. Her ability on her leader side has an interesting effect where you get to discard a card from your opponent's deck, and I've played against a lot of Sabes that have hit like every single good card that I need. The problem is I still get a draw too. So sometimes if they don't hit like the card that you actually need, they're helping me get to that card I need. A downside with Sabe is, let's say it's the 12 resource turn. You see resupply in your opponent's next draw, you have to discard one of those cards. You can't like opt to let them keep both. Once you look at the top 2, you must discard 1. That's like hyperbolic, but it could happen. Another downside is your units must deal damage to the base, so sentinels can stop you from getting the value you want. Her leader side is like Bazine's effect, which is strong. I'm not going to say that it's not, but the idea is that you swing with a unit, you see the card they're gonna draw, and then you discard a good card and give them the air quotes like bad card that you put on top of their deck. And sometimes that's just not how it works. I've found that Sabe is way more annoying than good. Playing against her, oftentimes people do discard all my cards, but I still manage to turn the corner and win. It just takes 4 more turns than it should have. That being said, I think her effect will draw people to play her, and I think she'll be a tier 3 deck. She's just kind of inconsistent, which doesn't make for a competitive top tier leader. In the future, however, she's still going to be good. Nothing about her is dependent on rotation. And in fact, Han 1 is getting rotated, so she could just be like the best general cunning hero leader going forward, so I'm going to keep her 3 stars. DJ, need a lift? 2 stars now and 1 star in the future. DJ is the first double cunning leader in the game and also has an interesting ability, which is as an action, exhaust this leader, choose a friendly unit. If you do, play a unit from your hand and it costs 1 less. The chosen unit captures it. When played, effects resolve after the unit is captured. So he flips on 6 resources as a 4/6 with the ability friendly units that are rescued enter play ready, and also has Saboteur. So firstly, if you want an explanation on how DJ's ability actually works, I did make a video explaining it. It's a pretty quick video, the link will be in the description below if you're interested. I highly recommend you watch it if you want to know exactly how he works, and what cards are like pretty good with him. The issue with DJ I found is that he just has a major downside of not being able to really play hero or villain cards. Like yeah, you can play them for +1 resource if you capture them, but that's not that great. DJ's unique ability to run double cunning plus another color is super interesting and makes me really want to like try more decks with him. And there are good double cunning cards that would be good in other colors like Cunning and Cantina Bouncer and Bodhi, but only having access to those and not getting cards like Ahsoka is an issue. If you look at the majority of decks, most of the cards have that hero or villain aspect in them, and that's what makes DJ just so awkward to play. On top of that, his stats are just bad. We see these stats on 5 flip leaders, and I know DJ does have a strong ability, but he does have the limited access to non-hero and villain cards, which means that he should get a stat bump. We could have made him a 4/8, and I think he would have been okay. And his flip is cool, where he gets to like jailbreak every card, but the competent player is just gonna free them prior to DJ flipping, and then you don't get that value anymore. Post-rotation, barring a reprint of Cunning and other strong double Cunning cards like Cantina Bouncer, DJ loses the majority of strong cards that make him good and worth playing. So he currently is going to go down to 1 star unless we get those crazy double yellow cards or really good reprints in the future. Finally, let's put up the final tier list so everything is in one place. I know I was originally pretty down on the leaders in this set, but honestly, after looking at them, compiling them all together, thinking about them more, and making this video, the only truly unplayable leader that I think is a mistake is Lama Su, because Satine does get better post-rotation, and Leia Organa is a really good draft and sealed leader. A lot of 2-star leaders just have like one too many safety valves, but without them, they could have been a viable leader, and they could have actually even been like a great leader. And these are the types of leaders that you can just pick up and have fun with casually, so I'm not going to knock them too much on these, because we also got like 6 frisky leaders and 2 good to great leaders in my opinion. Now let's look at what I predict will happen post-rotation. It may be kind of surprising to you, and I'm okay with being wrong here, but I do think a lot of like the synergy-based leaders fall off, even though a lot of the competition rotates out. Leaders like Padme, Leia, Pryce, all lose cards that make them competent, and it's like one strategy that makes them work, and without those cards, I don't think they're going to be replaced, and I don't think those strategies are going to be good. I think we've seen a few just generally strong leaders that are going to be at least relevant going past rotation. So, if you liked this video, please consider giving it a like. I'm going to attempt to make at least a competent level deck tech for every single Secrets of Power leader, as well as a couple decks that I think are just going to be good next set with Secrets of Power cards. Those will attempted to be released daily once the set hits. Once I have the cards in hand, I can actually make the deck techs the way I want. So if you want to see those, consider subscribing. If you would like to support me, you can become a YouTube member and get access to the member-only sections of the Discord. The rest of the Discord, completely free. You have access to the deck list, the chats. I'm pretty active in there. My community is pretty active in there. So if you just want another place to talk SWU that's free, please consider joining. Let me know if you'd like to see that SWU meta stats video, because that is a video I would absolutely love to make. And that's all I have for you today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in Secrets of Power.